And if you are not comfortable being recorded or you don't want to share your screen, you at any time are welcome to. There's a little box at the bottom that says stop video. That won't stop the entire video. That will just stop Zoom from recording you. I also have you all automatically on mute, and I'll just go through and make sure that everybody is actually muted. And if you have a question to ask, you can do that one of a couple different backwards. I unmuted everyone, so everybody is muted now. And if you have a question, then please do ask by unmuting yourself or by going in there and actually, excuse me, writing something in the chat feature. So I'll be monitoring the chat feature, and then if Joel wants to answer those as he goes, you're welcome to do that. Otherwise, we'll answer the questions at the end. So I'd like to tonight introduce the guests that we have. We have Joel Mojica. He is coming to talk to us tonight a little bit about his experiences as an entrepreneur. He's started a lot of companies. He has lots of experience with this entrepreneurship game, and he's going to share a little bit about those experiences and give some advice to all of you about starting your own company. So I'm going to pass that on to Joel now, and whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and take it away.
Thank you, Tanya. I just wanted to thank everybody for coming to this presentation. I feel I have this love for entrepreneurs because you guys are so gritty. That's what it takes. And without any further ado, let me start off with by the background or my journey. It started in my high school years. I think I was a senior in high school, and I was in a sales and marketing class and also working a sales job. I realized right away with my first job that I didn't like people telling me what to do. I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to tell myself what to do. So, started off trying to sell vitamins, and I sold vitamins door to door, but it was actually a little business. I didn't think of it like that then because I bought stock and I sold it and I kept the profits, etc. But then moving on down the line, I found surfing, or surfing found me, and that became a love. And I really loved the lifestyle so much, I decided I was going to pack up my boards, and I was in San Francisco in the Bay Area then, and my luggage, and go down to San Diego where there was some warm water where I can surf every day. So that's exactly what I did. I didn't have to worry that I couldn't find a job because I was a great salesperson. At least I felt I was. And I found a job selling fine jewelry down here in San Diego. Well, while I was selling fine jewelry, I was surfing. I really wanted to be in the surf and beach industry. So I decided while I was working that I would try to find a product to make. And I started out selling like developing and marketing a little jewelry item and accessory and some t-shirts. I wasn't really doing well with it, and I wasn't really into it. I wasn't passionate about it. But then I came to the idea of killer beeswax, and that is where it all started for me as far as what I feel is my first entrepreneurship venture. I had a company. It was called Joel Mojica Surf and Beach Products, but we DBA'd or did business under the name Killer Beeswax. And I developed the product basically from scratch. Had an idea to have a good looking wax bar, real sticky wax that would grip. The wax bar had honeycombs to it, so it looked like a piece of honeycomb. It was in hexagon shape, and it was in a resealable Ziploc bag. So after you wax up your surfboard, you can put it back in. So it had all these features that the competition didn't have. And that was the idea for Killer Beeswax. I marketed Killer Beeswax not only locally, but after that, it became an international product. So I'm familiar with distribution of consumer products internationally through distributors. So it went all over Australia, England, South Africa, which was great. After I was, I want to say that season of my life with Killer Bees ended. I always had the entrepreneur mind, and I wanted to get back into something. And I decided I was going to, I had a little hobby business. I went to Palomar College, did a little woodworking, and I decided I was going to make spear guns for spear fishing in my garage and sell one at a time. So that was a little hobby business that I did. I ended up selling quite a few of those high dollar spear guns. But then I always thought, what out of my entrepreneur journey with Killer Beeswax, what did I really, or who did I really envy in the business world? And I envied the media because they got all the perks. It seems like while I was trying to promote Killer Beeswax, I'd have to give them all kinds of products. And I thought, I've been a hunter and fisherman all my life, and I really like that. And I had this great idea that I could film an outdoor television reality show dealing with different methods of hunting and fishing, everything from falconry to ocean foraging to we fish for giant bluefish, fin tuna in Nova Scotia. We used an air gun, big bore air gun, to do some hunting. We did all kinds of these unusual or unique methods of hunting and fishing. We used an atlatl on some game. So it was I had this idea that if I could do that in a way where I could bring that experience to the viewers, it would not only be educational, but it would be a great television show. So the idea of Methods of Take was born, and I aired 2 seasons of Methods of Take, one in Discovery Velocity and one on NBC Sports Network. After Methods of Take, I always I actually used hobby business. It's called Boss Steel Blades, which I currently still have. I retail, I sell knives retail, and right now I'm selling online. So that was a hobby business. So I sell a lot of custom knives and things like that, and I still do on that. So finally, we come up to currently, my current venture is to launch a nonprofit, Aquaponics for Life. And the nonprofit deals with using a micro farm, aquaponics, where you have fish that create nutrients in the water, and the water is fed to a system, into a hydroponic system for plants, and you grow vegetables. And it's a really incredible, sustainable way of agriculture and farming, where you can raise an abundance of produce in a small space. So that's what my current venture, and I just launched it, and I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes. And we plan on feeding communities, local communities throughout different districts. So we're hoping we can get in one junior high school here in San Diego and get a little area of land to go ahead and start our pilot farm on it, and then feed that community. And then we'll expand to hopefully every community in San Diego that way. So that is my journey up to date on my entrepreneurship. So we can flip to the next screen. And I wanted to talk with you guys a little bit about your ideas. Everybody who's an entrepreneur has an idea, and it's either a product or it's a service. And what you have to do is you have to first, when it's an idea, protect that idea. You don't know what you have yet, so you don't want to tell the whole world about it. You want to keep that to yourself. just as few people who you think it would be important to, or who you know will encourage you, and protect that idea. It's to your advantage. There is a document. If it's an idea, it's called a disclosure document. Very inexpensive way. I think back in my days, it was like $10. I can't assume it's more than $20 right now. So if you look it up, the United States government has a document called the Disclosure Document Program. And you write down your idea and you send it to them. In a consumer product, like let's say killer beeswax, where it's something that you can patent, it's not the first person who goes out selling the product that owns rights to that patent. It's the first person to be able to prove on a certain date that he had that idea. And that disclosure idea, you have an official document with the United States government saying that on that date, that was your idea. So that is a very inexpensive way to protect your ideas. Next, when you're going around to, I don't know, I want to say, dig into your idea a little bit more with strangers and maybe business acquaintances to see if it's a viable idea, you want to make sure you get a confidentiality agreement. That is something, I know it's, some people are uncomfortable doing that, but if you're going to tell a stranger or a business acquaintance your idea, it behooves you to have them sign that, because you just don't know who can, and they will, and somebody will more than likely want to take your idea and run with it if they find that it'll make them some money. So that's a definite thing. Protect your ideas. Then you get to the market research. Now you want to find out if your idea that you have is viable, because if it costs $10,000 to make and you can't sell it for that price, you don't really have a viable business idea. So market research, without getting into a lot of it, is about you going out there with your idea and finding out if your product is viable and if people will actually use your product, pay for your product, and who your target market is. All that comes under market research, and that you'll learn on your entrepreneur journey on that. So after you have your idea and you're protecting it to the best of your ability, you go out and you find out if your product is viable for market, or your idea or your service, and you do your research. And when you are fairly comfortable with the idea that, hey, I have a product or service that I can market, is in demand, or is better than my competition, or et cetera, then you go into prototyping. Now, you don't go ahead and start making a bunch of stock, even though, if a prototype costs you $10,000, and it's worth it, especially if you go and stock up 20,000 or, whatever, however much money a stock that you put into it in your time, and you find out that you can't sell it or you can't move it. A prototype shouldn't cost you that much, depending on what it is. I know nowadays with all the high-tech software and stuff, prototyping can kind of be expensive, but if you jump into it right away and go into full production, oh my goodness, you can lose a lot of money there fast. So you can prototype. And if you don't have money for prototyping, you can use a drawing or a rendering, a video, and you can actually sell off all these if you have bids and quotes ahead of time from your suppliers that are written quotes in a timely manner. You can sell off of these things, but a prototype is your first priority before you do any move on any further with your tangible idea. After prototyping, you get into your plan. Now you say, okay, I have a viable product. I have my product or service. Okay, what do I need to make? Or how much of this can I sell? Or I would say to myself, I would look and say, okay, what needs to be done for me to start manufacturing this product? It would come into different pieces. That's when you start your planning. I mean, you plan, you know, how am I with killer beeswax? It was like, okay, we made our prototype. We had this bar with honeycombs. What's it going to take me to make 10,000 of these at a time? Molds, you know, how much are those molds going to cost me? You know, who am I going to get the wax from? Who's going to mix the wax? Who's going to pour it? Who's going to pop it out? Who's going to package it? You know, all these things are in your planning stages. Every business is an individual business. Everybody, so planning out to your best of your abilities on what it's going to take is you know, very, very important. And it gives you a roadmap on your steps. So after planning, you come to the part where, okay, I need to source my items. And this part comes with me getting bids too, because as with killer bees wax, if I wanted to buy the wax, I would have bids from 5 different wax manufacturers. And I'm talking about subcontracting. I'm not talking about going to the expense of building your own lab or bringing your machinery in and this and that. And you're really going to put yourself in a hole if you get funded for all that, and it, you know, and your plans don't seem to work out the way you planned them. So I'm more familiar with subcontracting. So I would get 5 or, you know, as many bids as I could, 5 at least. And there are 5 different manufacturers, and different things happen. You know, you had different formulas come in, and some we didn't like, and the labs would work with us, and we would go ahead and also, you know, we'd have to figure out the cost. Everybody came in at different costs, and with wax, it was down to pennies, because, you know, it wasn't a product where we had a big profit margin, but we wanted to sell volume. So and that's what we did. We had to sell volumes of the stuff. A case of our wax had 100 bars in, so we were selling 100 bars at a time. But, you know, all these manufacturers gave us different quotes, and then you have to implement your shipping costs into that if they're coming from another state, and, you know, the trucking. So that all comes into planning. But once you get those bids down, everything from your packaging to your, you know, to your wax, or, you know, to whatever items you have with a service, it would be, you know, let's say somebody was, you would have to pay for your supplies that you would use in there, your rent, you know, all of those are considered part of sourcing. So once you find all your sources, you get bids from all of them. And, you know, someone might be real low, but you have to make sure that they can deliver. I mean, if they don't deliver, it's, you know, you'll have issues. So you have all these factors that come into play in being an entrepreneur. You have to be able to manage these things, and have your bids in front of you, and decide, okay, this is a supplier. These are the suppliers I want to go with. Once you pick the suppliers you want to go with on those bids, they can give you a lead time, how long it'll take. And when you get the bids from them, you get bids for, I'm just going to throw numbers out there. You get bids for 100, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000. Because as you buy in volume, usually the price goes down. So, you know, that gives you, you know, flexibility on your price point or your margin, as you can, you know, see how much you need to buy in order to get to where you need to be from your planning. With that being said, they can also, for each of those bids, give you their lead time or how long it will take to deliver. Now, jumping back up to where we had the prototype and design, if you have all these bids in place and talk to these people, and there's no reason, especially if it was like 3 months down the road is their lead time, or 2 months down the road, you can go right out and try to sell it off a prototype, your product or drawing with these bids that are backing you up. You have quotes on hard paper, so and the manufacturers will be more than happy if you brought them more business, I'm sure. But you can sell off your prototype. I'm not saying that's the wise way to do it, but I've seen it done, and I've actually done off of drawings or videos myself, some of that. So that's one thing to do. When it comes to your production, your suppliers, it'll be amazing that what your suppliers can do for you. Like, you may not have, the people or manpower or packaging to do this, but one of your suppliers does. And with like Killer Bees, we had the wax company do everything in house. I mean, they charged me maybe 5 cents more per bar, but that was worth it for me than trying to hire a crew, deal with employee headaches, find a space for the people to put together wax, move the wax around. So they boxed it all up and made the deal, and then we stocked the wax, and we even had them stock some of the wax for us because our space was real small and they had a big warehouse. So use your suppliers when it comes to your production, if possible, and that's one thing. Marketing is everything in business for me. I'm a sales guy and marketing guy, but it's everything. Tanya, can we go next slide, please? With marketing, how are you going to sell what you produce? Are you going to sell it locally? Are you going to sell it regionally? Are you going to sell it nationally? Are you going to sell it internationally? You have to ask yourself things like, what avenues will you use? Will you use direct sales? Will you go door to door? Will you go online? Will you use sales reps? Will you use distributors? What avenues are you going to use? And how will you promote your product? Promotion is what keeps all of this moving. Everything. It's the lubricant. If you don't promote well, things go stagnant and things die down. So marketing right now, marketing promotions, let's say buying advertising. Advertising can be expensive. There's so many different forms. This is where you can bring in like an expert and things to help you along the way to see what's best for you. It would be wise for you to run publicity releases before you get into any of your, I would say, paid advertising, where you're spending a lot of money on advertising. And publicity releases is pretty much just hitting your industry and seeing if someone will give you a write-up or trying to get on the news, et cetera, et cetera. Any media outlets, functions, anywhere you can get written up in a magazine, or your product or your service can be shown on TV. That should be expired first. Get a good PR campaign going. And there's experts you can hire for that too. Nowadays, social media campaigns, a lot of people use social media and are good at it. So all those things you have to consider in promotion. This keeps your business operating. This is going to be your blood. This is going to be your life system. Your promotions and marketing are what's going to keep everything going. How are you going to operate your operations, your administration, your accounting, your bookkeeping? This should all be covered in your planning ahead of time. Your production, And of course your marketing and your fulfillment, how are you going to get out to the customers. So the thing about company structure is you have your administration part, which is the bookkeeping, your accounts receivables, your accounts payables, where you're paying out, your taxes, your legal, all of that is under administration. You know, who's going to handle that? Are you going to handle that? Are you going to sub some of that out? Are you going to hire somebody to as an employee for you? Your production, you know, if you're a service, your production is, you know, what you know, if you want to expand yourself, maybe you have a PR service, you know, who are your people, you know, in there. They're your production, as I see it. You know, they're who's out there producing for you. If you're a product, you know, are you subcontracting your production? How much of it are you going to bring in-house? You know, can you use other resources like the handicap? We did that once with the killer bees. We brought the ARC, some of the people with special needs and they would package our wax because they could do it. All they did, put a bar inside a packaging, box it up, and they had a foreman running them, and it was inexpensive, and it did well for us. You know, so you have to think about that as far as your production company part. Marketing, you know, that's essential. Who's going to be your salesperson? Who's your sales team? Are you going to get manufacturer representative? Are you going to get independent salespeople? Are you going to get distributors? Are you going to get wholesalers to move your product? How are you going to move your product? And that also comes in with how are you going to promote your product? And then the final part is fulfillment. After you made the sale, you know, how are you going to deliver to customer? You know, how are you going to give the customer the service? You know, how are you going to fulfill the needs? Finally, like I said, let's go ahead and flip the screen. And this is strive to make meaning. I mean, this is a lot of work for somebody. If it doesn't mean anything for you, you know, I always say never quit. You know, great people, they don't quit. There is a time to stop though, and that's when a business becomes meaningless to you. You know, so you have to strive to make it meaning. Yeah, the money, it moves so fast, moves in and out so fast. You know, it'll come and it'll go, but it's just strive to make meaning. That's good. Follow your passion. Build a business around what you love. I mean, that's what I did. I like to build business around what I love because it's what keeps you going. There is a lot to be done, and if you're not passionate about it, you're going to gas out. It's not going to be worth it. It's not worth it. Find yourself a job. If you're not passionate about it. Let's go to the next screen, please. Okay, so what will determine your success? You know, everybody thinks it's smarts, it's brains, it's, you know, I believe these are my four. It's passion, it's drive. You have to have a drive. You have to do a little bit all the time, every day, no matter how small the step is, you know, or how big the step is. You know, if you're on a roll, you know, keep buttering up that roll, keep going with it. If you just don't feel like doing something, do a little thing. do just a little bit and get that done and call it a day. Tomorrow's a new day. Persistence it's something that can't be taught. That's when it's tough out there, and it will be guaranteed. There's things always that you will not see, and every business is different. Everyone has a different path. Every business is a different creature, and your persistence is what's going to bring that to fulfillment. I mean, bring your business to where you want to go. And finally, determination. You just have to be determined. It's like there's no way back. Reminds me of that story. You know, and I want to push this to the extent where it's like the guy, the captain goes out to war and he says, burn all the ships. And his army burns it, and he goes, look, you know, it's either you win or you perish, you know. And that's a kind of determination that you need. It's like, you know, I got no choice. There's no turning back. I'm determined to get this done. So let's go next screen. Optimism. This is a key thing. Belief over doubt is very key. There's going to be plenty of times you're going to doubt if you're going to be able to do this because some circumstance is going to pop up, or a supplier didn't make ends meet. You know, doubting is okay. You know, you can doubt, but don't spend time there. You know, you know your end game. You have to know your what you're striving for, and you have to have belief in yourself, in what the future holds for your dream. I always like this saying about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Believe me, you will be uncomfortable a lot of times, and it's kind of, for me, I kind of relish it because it helps me grow. It's kind of funny. I don't know, but in business, you will be thrown into situations where you're not going to be comfortable, or all of a sudden something will pop up and you'll be like, I don't know if I want to handle it. That's when you just go in and you handle what's going on. And finally, you know, after all that I've been saying about being passionate, driving, being determined, and not quitting, you can't get emotional over your product or your business. And this is really hard to do because you put so much time, you put so much energy, you know, it's your baby, it's being born. But if the numbers aren't there, and this happens a lot in the prototype stage. I mean, you put a lot of money into it, and then all of a sudden you do your research and you see red lights. I mean, you can lose a lot of money if you continue on. So you have to be able to not be emotional and set that aside, because there will be another, you know, there'll be another something for you later on. It's not the end all. I mean, there's plenty of ideas I'm sure entrepreneurs have all the time, and there'll be another business for you. So don't get emotional over your business or your product. You know, if you're seeing red, back off. And even though about quitting or about, you know, the only time to that I would say, if when things are hard, you don't quit. You never quit. You never quit. When things become meaningless, then it may be time for you to try something else. Okay, the ability, this is key, the ability to visualize and see the end and how you got there. This is one of the steps that is critical. See your end game. See what you want your business to be doing. See, you know, how you're selling it, what your end result is, and work backwards and find out how did you get there. Each of those steps, working backwards, will be part of this big plan, and that's the way to do it. You know, the vision is what you focus on, and the steps that took you to get there are what you use for your planning. And that, we can move on to the next slide. That's about all I have to say for that. People factor. People is a big factor. Choose your partners really carefully. You have to gel. I mean, there's some awesome partners there, and then there's also some partners that you'll have a hard time working with. You'll learn a lot about that, but my thing is you have to work with people who keep their word, because if a person can keep their word and keeps their word about small things too, you can always depend what they say will get done. So that's definitely one of those things that you want to keep in mind. Employees, right? Hire people, you know, with knowledge, skills, and abilities, characteristics. You know, some of the employees are better than you at certain things. And yes, employees are a whole different subject, you guys. Employees, when you add employees, you add, I want to say, it gets more challenging unless you have a great climate with everybody. So that will be good. So be careful and hire the right employees. Subcontractors, outsourcing areas, that was my thing. I love subcontractors. You know, I like working with other businesses. You have to make sure you know, they can deliver. That, you know, they have that track record of delivering. Don't, you know, if they keep their word in the beginning, you can pretty much be sure that, you know, they'll produce for you. And then finally, understanding everything about business is crucial for being an entrepreneur. Everything from what entity, S corp, sole proprietorship, partnership, to accounting, know your bookkeeping, know how cash flows, know receivables, 60, 90 days, know your terms, business law, an entrepreneur has to have understanding and knowledge about every piece of you don't have to be the best at all of these. You have to just know all of them, to understand all of them, you know, the negotiations and everything. So as much as you can learn, even if it's not your thing, know the basic concepts of each of these. And I'm going to stress legal and accounting and taxes. Those things can catch up to you pretty fast. You know, even though some people shy away from those things, you know, get a good understanding of it. Next slide, please. And once again, you have to have passion because, you know, a lot of people, you're an entrepreneur, they think that it's, you know, I don't know, it's over glorified. They think that, you know, you don't work that hard and you get a lot. I don't know what they think. I just know that people are really, what would I say? They're in awe of the entrepreneur. But me being an entrepreneur myself, I'm in awe of their grittiness because you will work all the time. It's much easier having a job, much easier. And that being said, you know, we can move on to the next slide, please. The reward is seeing an idea that you formed in your head and seeing it manifest into something tangible that's marketed all over the world in the journey that it brings you through. It's just unbelievable. You know, that's the real reward, the passion of seeing your idea manifest itself and actually go to market. And finally, my biggest advice to you is just get started. Whatever your dream is, get started. Just do that first step. And then next day, just do that next step. It just gets started.
Thank you so much.
I think I took a long time, but I tried not to.
Oh, that was actually that was great. I don't think it was too long at all. It was nice. It was great. So thank you. There's so many great pieces of advice in there. I think that you know, a lot of the students in here are just at the beginning of their journey, and they have a big journey ahead of them. And I think that you know, it's nice to hear from somebody who's been through this a few times and has things to share from there. So what I'd like to do now is I'd like to open it up for questions. I see a lot of comments coming in. Thank you. It was great. Thank you. They love the product knowledge, the supplier stories, very informative. Any questions that we have for Joel? We have a little bit of time, another 10 minutes or so. I do see some questions coming in. When you're hiring people, can you put them to the test or ask them to do a simple task before the interview process or before you actually hire them?
You know, I'm more of a people person. I use my gut. People have different hiring methods. I like to talk to them and see where they're at. I like to see if they have the ability. I'm not quite sure. Maybe you can chime in on that, Tanya, as far as hiring goes.
So absolutely. So I think that when the best piece of advice that I've ever gotten on hiring, and it's been true when I've hired people throughout all of my different ventures, is be very slow to hire and
Yes.
fast to fire. So take your time bringing in the right people. Make sure that you do everything you can to find out about that person, about their knowledge, their skills, their experience. They have what it takes in order to do the job right. And then if it's not working out, pay attention to those first signs. If it's not working out right at the beginning a little bit, very soon it will snowball, and they can bring a lot of people down in the organization. So bringing in those right people, I think is really important.
Yeah. Employees, you have to be, gosh, you know, that was the hardest thing for me in business because was the people factor. I like subcontracting because they had to worry about their employees. But you will have to get a couple good employees, and when you have good ones, you can really go places.
Yeah, absolutely. So how did you, this is another question coming in from Adrienne. So how did you go about marketing? How did you market your product and sell it in terms of direct to consumer? Did you use influencers? How did you actually market?
Well, you know how I marketed first was locally. I went to find independent sales reps in the industry. And these guys, I paid them a commission. And they were already established in the industry. So they had other lines, other surfing lines, like maybe a wetsuit line. With Killer Bees, it was a doorbuster. It was a product that had to be in all the wax had to be in all the surf shops. So it was easy for them to enter with it. So I used independent sales reps. I did some in-house on our delivery. I gave our delivery guy a commission if he, obviously sold some more extra waxes while he was dropping off. And I also used a lot of international distributors where I'd sell in volumes to like New Zealand. There are manufacturers reps who are already in the industry who have capabilities or have a client list of distributors they sell to. So you can sell to a distributor knowing that your margin is going to be lower, but they buy in more volume too. So I sold every way. I sold direct. I sold over the phone. My avenues were direct to the retailer. I sold through independent reps, and they usually were given a territory. You don't give them everything. Obviously, you can't handle all the United States, so you give him what he can handle. And you handle the territories that you can't find an independent rep until you can find one. And that was direct to the stores. And then, of course, we handled in-house, or I handled the international distributors and made the bigger deals in different countries.
Nice.
And we found those guys through the trade shows too.
Oh yeah, trade shows were big for me too in the wholesale food industry. So
I got a plane flying over me right now, so hold on one moment.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. That's it was good. We didn't have too many interruptions like that. We had the earthquake right at the beginning, but other than that,
that was good. I call myself fortunate for having that. I'll remember this forever.
Yes. So, question about coming from Tony Taylor. He said, when you started out, what was your biggest challenge, and how did you overcome that challenge?
Well, I think my biggest challenge was, man, there were so many challenges. I am going to say my biggest challenge was the surf industry in general. It was so I don't know if too many people are familiar with the term, but in a surf break, there were like locals, and they would give you a hard time if you surfed their break. The industry was the same way when I got in it. They didn't want any newcomers coming into their industry. You know, they had their pro set and everything. And, you know, I just, you just persist. They had their pros who would say, no, you know, your product isn't good. And then, you know, you'd sponsor a few kids yourself, and you're, you know, you just kind of build it up. But I think in general, my hardest thing was breaking into the surfing industry. And after it got on the shelves, I knew through research that the product would sell, just how it was so different and better than the competition. But getting in there and convincing people to give it a try was the hardest part to do. And once you get good people on your side, that helps out when it comes to an industry that is not friendly to newcomers.
Yeah. Yeah. So, you know, it's interesting that you say that when you're talking about the quality of the product. I remember in the 90s, you couldn't go anywhere in PBIB without seeing your, you know, your product. It was everywhere. That's what people were using. And quality, I think, is really important to small businesses and to new businesses. Delivering something that's a real quality product that you can stand behind and be proud of, I think is important. Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have to know your niche. You know, if you're in a market, there are other surf waxes there, but we had our niche. Not only did we have a resealable bag, you know, we had a cool name, we had the honeycomb bar, you know, we had a really scrippy wax that, you know, held you on your surfboard. But we knew our niche was all these features that we were just different from the old timer, old waxes and stuff like that. So we came across that, and the quality came out, and our work to brand ourselves or market our niche was awesome. I mean, we had a lot of fun promoting. You know, we did on the beach promotion, gave away samples. We got on the radio station and gave away product for them to mention. You know, that kind of stuff is cheap. If you have a product, you know, and you give it to somebody and they get you on a radio or TV where, you know, thousands of people get to hear it. You couldn't buy it for the same price as that couple bars of wax or that case of wax that I gave the radio station. So we'd hit all the radio stations, LA, you know, Ventura down here, all the radio stations that the surfers listen to, and we'd say, hey, if we give you a box of wax, we'll you hand it out for us. And then they go out in their own vans, you know, and hand out our product, which is extra promotion. So we did a lot of grassroots type advertising back then.
That's cool. And I know you're talking a lot about this grassroots and starting in San Diego and then expanding Los Angeles, and it's, you know, eventually you were everywhere, you were global. But I think we had a question here from CJ asking about how did you actually decide which markets to enter first when you first started, and then expand from there, choosing where to go?
Well, the markets we started in obviously was just the surf industry market, but there were other markets, believe it or not. There was the convenience store markets, the 7-Elevens in the beach communities that bought surf wax. So as far as what avenues of selling to do it, we just tried them all. I mean, it was like hit or miss. You know, we tried phone sales, we tried sales reps, we tried in-house sales, we did the gambit when it came to selling. Promotion was the key. The better your promotion and branding was, the quicker your products left the shelf.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And you started here local in San Diego probably because you're in San Diego.
Right,
Then, you could kind of go from there, right? Yeah. Yeah.
right. Just moved on up,
Yeah, right.
all the way, moved up the California coast. And then as you start with your product, your business grows. It grows, and you meet people along the way, and opportunities pop up and say, "Hey, I have a friend in Hawaii who would love this stuff," and that friend showed it to a shop there, and the owner wants to pick some up. And then one of the things I did to find sales reps is I would go into a surf shop in an area, and I would just ask the owner. I'd say, "Hey, who's your best sales rep that calls? Like, who are your best sales reps?" And I say, "Could I get their information?" And they'd give me their information, and then I would take that information, I call them up, and then I'd say, "Hey, so and so from Star Surfing Company," and that sales rep would go, "Oh, I know Glenn. He's one of my best customers. He told me to call you." and, and I have this new product. You might want to move it for me. So he thinks too, hey, I have an owner from one of my favorite clients, and this guy's calling me up saying that I should call him. And first person he usually calls on is that shop owner. Says, "Hey, do you want to buy some killer bees?" And he's pretty stuck. He's like, "Well, I gave him my information."
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
So
So,
those were fun times.
would you maybe, I know we're almost out of time, but just maybe one more question here. So I had a question from Brandon Pearson who asked about when you're actually coming up with ideas for new products or services, what do you do to brainstorm them? Or is there any like system for your?
Yeah, that that brainstorming, I like to say, is research. When I have a new product, let's take methods of take. I was watching a television show, which was it was a martial arts show where these guys went all around the world and they tried different martial arts. And I'd watch it. I forgot what it was called, but I was intrigued by it. And I said, "Wow, that would be cool to have, instead of just some hunting and fishing show where somebody goes out and he's catching salmon all day long, to go out and see maybe how the Inuit Eskimos do it, and then try on hand how to do that." And then, then I saw a cooking show or I saw another show where they cooked their catch. And I think ours was the show that brought in like restaurants and stuff, where we brought into the outdoor field. We went in and with our catch, and then an expert chef cooked it up at the end. And so we had our own niche. We were different from all the other outdoors. And the way we put that all together, to answer your brainstorming question, is my ideas probably came from stuff that was already created, but kind of mashed together and to create a hybrid, you would say. So that's probably the best way I can think of my brainstorming. I kind of hybrid things together and into what I'm passionate about.
But I mean, I think a lot of it is just being alert, right, to ideas when they come, and being poised to to jump on things when you hear about new things.
Absolutely. Like with Aquaponics for Life, the nonprofit that I'm doing right now, I was like, I business is so much work. I was like, if I enter another business, I don't know if I want to enter another business again. I love it, but I can't get it out of me. So a nonprofit was my key, because I with my faith, I want to give back to the community. And I love agriculture. I love farming. I like growing things. I like to be able to eat things. And I like giving, food away or and stuff like that. So with Aquaponics and Aquaponics for Life, it was a way to showcase aquaponics as the new future of agriculture, but also, instead of being like Father Joe's, where we can feed the whole, or try to feed the whole San Diego, I just want to help people in one little local community. And once we have that down, there's no reason why we can't pop up these little micro farms and every school district or every community through San Diego, and feed the food insecure, the needy, single moms, parents, anybody in community, 50 baskets of produce a week.
I've been thinking about this so much since the pandemic, how everybody should have a garden right now. And I keep thinking about your business, and I keep thinking like this could be something that's scalable, that everybody needs to have a way to grow their own food if we do have disruptions and things like the supply chain.
Absolutely, and with aquaponics, where the fish, the fish water feeds the plants, and the plants clean the water and goes back to the fish. You have a source of protein. If you want to eat the fish, not everybody will eat their fish, but you can grow a lot of plants in a small amount of space. So I think it is the future, and everybody who will want to learn will come into our micro farm, and we'll probably have little classes. Maybe we'll do virtual ones on setting up your aquaponics.
I'm loving this. I think it's a great idea. I think this is ideation, right? This is how a new business is reformed. Yeah, absolutely. I love this. I love this. So, well, I think we're out of time there. This is a really wonderful workshop. We'd love to hearing a little background about your story. A lot of people, I'm seeing a lot of comments from people, both privately and publicly, really excited about your ideas, excited about your company. And gosh, thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, everybody. I hope that everybody stays safe, and I hope for all you gritty entrepreneurs out there, follow your dreams, be persistent, be determined, and just go for it. Get started.
Thank
tomorrow, even tonight.
Yes, thank you. Wonderful, thanks. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording here. If you stay around with me for just a little bit,